Hey guys, what's going on? It's If You Have to Pick Three. It's Matt.
And it's Zach.
This show, what we do, we put together some top three lists. We then discuss it and come up with a final top three list. This one, well, it is a bit unusual because we're talking about the most unusual collaborations that have happened in music. Zach, I know that you had something particular in mind, I think, when we started discussing this.
Actually, two things came into mind. The first, more recently, it was announced that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, aka Nine Inch Nails, because the two of them have become Trent Reznor, obviously Nine Inch Nails, but two of them have been collaborators for a while and work on a lot of things. And it's not that unusual that they do some weird projects. They've won Oscars for doing movie soundtracks and even a Disney Pixar film. But they announced recently that they will be producing Halsey's new album. Great pop singer. It just seemed, maybe the more you delved into it, it kind of makes sense. But when you first read the headline, you're like, wait, what? Halsey and Nine Inch Nails, essentially? They're going to make an album together? Not that they're going to be performing on the album, but still, like, weird that essentially Trent Reznor is producing a Halsey album. And then, for whatever reason, around that same time, I realized, I don't mean to steal your thunder, Matt, if this is on your list, but this year marks the 10-year anniversary of Lulu, possibly the most bizarre collaborative album between Lou Reed and Metallica, the two types of musicians you'd never expect to even appear at the same party, let alone on an album together. So with that in mind, I just thought, you know what? I'd love to just have a discussion about what we would consider to be the oddest music collaborations, and not necessarily the bad or, terrible. There's been plenty of examples where two exact polar opposites have come together to produce something that years later is like, well, I couldn't even imagine it not existing. It's perfect. Of course, there's bad examples, but
Yep.
I thought it would be fun to just kind of go into it and just be like, all right, what are the most unusual, odd collaborations in music history? So, Matt, I want to let you go first. But before I do, I want to give a special shout out to Lucky 13 Beard Co., based right in our home state of New Jersey. They produce some really great beard oils that are just, if you got a beard, this is the product for you.
Yeah, you got to grab some of these. They're really great. You're going to smell great, feel great. Your lady friend, your man friend, maybe even your pet. They might dig the smell too, but you will definitely feel good. And after, this last 18, 19 months now, you should make yourself feel a little bit good.
It's all different types of flavors too.
Yeah, all the different scents. You got like some of the brand new ones that he's put out. He's got a cigar lounge one. He's got one based on like opening day of baseball, dreamsicle. He's got Fruit Loops, my favorite, tobacco vanilla. So there's something really for everybody here. If you've never tried beer bombs and oils before, this is how you're going to get into it. You're going to go to lucky13beardco.com and then browse around, put some stuff in your cart. We're giving you 10% off your entire order. Use code EFP10 at checkout. I guarantee you're going to smell great, feel great, and you're just going to, I guarantee you're going to be using some of these products for a long time to come.
So, Matt, let's hear your three first.
Okay. So number one, this one is kind of the original what, even before Lulu. So the moment that you told me about Lulu and this concept for doing this, I said, you know what? I got the perfect one. And I was even thinking about putting Metallica and the San Francisco Symphony on here because when you heard about it originally, it's like, what? But no, we're not going with that because that's too easy. We're going deep, like deep into a soundtrack to a movie. I'm talking about the collaboration between Metallica and Ja Rule.
Oh, that was bizarre.
Oh, let me tell you, I listened to that song for the first time in years the other day, just getting ready for this. And I was like, what the hell were they both thinking? The intro and the choruses suck. Like, I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. They suck. When they get into the verse and Ja Rule actually rapping over Metallica playing, I'm thinking like, okay, maybe I could get behind this a little bit. I don't think it was as bad as I remember. Oh, wait, here's the chorus. Then they take it to like halftime. So I think it's like a very quick count of 4. But then they cut it down to like half for the intro and the choruses and a very long drawn out James Hetfield. Yeah, like what
movie was that for?
Biker Boys.
Oh, that's right.
It is so bad. If you have never heard this before. Whew.
Actually, if you want an even more fun treat, I don't think it ended up making it into Some Kind of Monster, the documentary, but there's a bonus scene where it captures the band beginning to record that song and also kind of getting pitched on the concept. And then them
stole
talking.
My thunder.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry. But like,
stole my thunder.
But like, so do you remember when they were like saying like, oh man, we'd love to do it with DMX? And they were like, oh, he's not available. But Ja Rule, like, who's Ja Rule? It's like, oh, he's kind of like DMX. And then they cut to Ja Rule rapping, and you're like, okay, interesting comparison.
Little cringeworthy, but then they show you the back and forth between them. And what's so cringy about it is that they're all into it. Every single one of them is into it, and like they're all like getting down with it. They're just grooving, sitting on the couch, listening to it, and I'm listening to it, thinking, are you listening to the same chorus I'm listening to? Because who the hell is not telling you that this thing sucks and that this is going to be a catastrophe? So that's number 1.
I haven't thought about Biker Boys in forever. Side note.
Oh my God, that was so
that was
bad.
The one with Kid Rock was in it. He played a random.
Don't know.
Am I thinking of another terrible biker boy movie?
The only reason I know that it exists is because
of the terrible soundtrack.
Well, because Metallica, and I listen to pretty much anything that Metallica puts out at least once, and 2 because Blockbuster, and I used to work there, so that's how I know it was Biker Boys.
Oh, so I forgot that it spelled it with a Z too. So I know that we're getting too deep into the movie Biker Boys, but I think we have to. Orlando Jones, Lawrence Fishburne. Yeah, Kid Rock, he played a character named Dog. D-O-G-G.
I was going to, was it D-A-W-G?
No.
Let's get away from the Biker Boys and let's talk a little bit more Christmas. Because number 2 is going to be what I think is probably the oddest collaboration that it's like, all right, maybe. I don't know why, but okay. It is the Little Drummer Boy / Peace on Earth between Bing Crosby and David Bowie.
Classic.
It is classic, but I wonder why it's classic. You got like a classic crooner in Bing Crosby, and then you've got like the ever-evolving David Bowie. When they start singing over each other, they are on 2 completely different levels. They don't match well. On paper and vocally, they just don't match. So I always wondered, what was the reason why these 2 really came together and did this song? I know that there was something that David Bowie had against, I think it was a Little Drummer Boy and wanted to do Peace on Earth, or I don't remember. And I know I probably should, but I don't exactly remember why they did this song together. But I do remember that this did come out before Bing Crosby could hear it, because I think he passed away shortly after they recorded it. I just could never really get behind the song. And, listening to it in the context of this episode, it's like, yeah, their voices don't match. Their pitches don't match. Everybody loves this at Christmas. Okay. So your next odd collaboration, that would be number 2, David Bowie, Bing Crosby. And number 3, this one is probably my largest collaboration. Let's say it that way.
Largest. Okay.
Largest collaboration. That's because this is the entire Supernatural album. On paper, when you look at the career of Carlos Santana prior to this album, in the 90s, he released 3 new music albums, and they were all flops. Throughout his history, you obviously think of like Black Magic Woman, Oye Como Va, some of the real old stuff from Santana. But then he went through this really weird phase where he was like fusion jazz and just really like an instrumental guitar player. They had some vocalists here and there, but it wasn't anything to write home about. And if you loved Santana and you got into that vibe, great. If you didn't, you were like, okay, Santana's still around doing things. So then now it comes to the end of the 90s. And I very vividly remember this happening. I remember hearing on radio Smooth featuring Rob Thomas. And I wanted this album immediately. And I was 15 at the time, and I was begging my parents to take me to a CD store so I could go buy it. When I told them, well, what do you want to go to the store for? I want to go get Santana's new album. Like, Carlos Santana? How do you know of Carlos Santana? This new song? Isn't this guy new? And the answer most definitely was no, he was not. But when you start to think of the revival of Santana's career, this is the jumping off point. And this is, I think, one of the best examples of how to revive somebody's career when they're very talented, but they just don't know how to get to that success. He enlisted the help of, or the record label enlisted the help of Dave Matthews, Everlast, or obviously Rob Thomas, Lauryn Hill, CeeLo Green, The Product, G&B, which was also, I think Wyclef Jean was on that track too. Eagle Eye Cherry was pretty big at the time. Eric Clapton. So you had a lot of collaborations on this album that really helped propel Santana back into the minds and into new minds. Obviously, mine was one of them with this album. And he took that formula and made 2 more albums out of it and really kind of solidified himself again in commercial success. So I think the Supernatural album between Carlos Santana and all of those musicians really is kind of like, when you think about it on paper, it's like Santana, mainstream pop people. Santana, fusion jazz, classic rocker, pop music, R&B. Huh. Is that really going to work? Is anybody going to buy this? In hindsight, it is one of his, if not the best-selling album that he's ever done. So there you have it. There are my 3. So to recap, Metallica and Ja Rule from the Biker Boys soundtrack, Bing Crosby and David Bowie doing Little Drummer Boy and Peace on Earth, and Santana and the entire Supernatural album.
I think nothing says 90s more than the statement, we need to get this 60s, 70s era guitarist back into the mainstream. What can we do? Oh, yeah, let's get the singer of Matchbox 20. That will get the kids going.
But it did.
It did. No, but it absolutely did.
did.
Even it absolutely did. And that album was huge. I remember as a kid loving it. Yeah, that song alone. Rob Thomas joked that when they went to the Grammys and Santana won all the Grammys, that he and Everlast just showed up to help carry the Grammys.
You know what else is funny about this album too, though, is some of my favorite traditional Santana songs are on this album too. Migra and African Bamba. I love those 2 songs. And I don't know if it's just because it's all packaged in this same album, but I can't think of any more classical sounding Santana songs than these, outside of his classic stuff, that I love. Like, I love these songs just for Santana being Santana. Mm-hmm. And that Latin feel and that vibe. You know, it's not just the pop stuff or the R&B stuff on here that got me. It was that too. So this is just like a complete album for me. So what say you?
So before I go into my 3, I'm probably going to do some more honorable mentions afterwards, because I feel like there's a ton I can go on and on about how random they are. But I do feel like I need to give a special honorable mention first to the entire 1993 soundtrack to Judgment Night. I couldn't tell you what the movie's actually about. What I can tell you, though, is that literally this soundtrack is probably the ultimate compilation of hip-hop artists collaborating with hard rock artists. Literally, just to name a few, I mean, you had hard rock and metal bands like Helmet collaborating with House of Pain. You had Slayer collaborating with Ice-T. You had Pearl Jam collaborating with Cypress Hill. You had Mudhoney collaborating with Sir Mix-a-Lot. And then my personal favorite, just for the names attached, you had Faith No More collaborating with Booyah Tribe. That's a real name. Yeah.
The Booyah Tribe.
Yeah. Do you know? I remember just like, for some reason, when I used to work in the music industry, there was someone who had like a bunch of these classic hip hop artists trading cards, and the Booyah Tribe was on them. I thought it was the most hysterical thing. Like that can't be real. And it was.
Their number one
So-
song on Spotify is Another Body Murdered.
Booyah Tribe?
Yeah.
Booyah. So it's one of those examples of 90s rock and 90s hip hop colliding into this ungodly collaboration album. So yeah, just want to give a special shout out to that soundtrack. I'm not going to lie. I feel like you asked me one day, my list might change, but I want to start off by talking about a collaboration that was successful, that now feels like a no-brainer. It's just so iconic that you couldn't imagine it not happening, because it not only helped, kind of like you were talking about with Santana, how it revitalized his career. Not only did this collaboration revitalize this band's career, but it really kind of helped shape a unique spin-off of the rock genre.
Don't do it.
I'm doing it. I'm talking
don't do
about
it.
a song that actually, if you listen to a past, if you have to pick 3 episode where we discuss the most overplayed songs on the radio, Mr.
do
Gamba
it.
over here not only said this song was overplayed, but that he actually hated it, which he's wrong, because Aerosmith and Run DMC's Walk This Way, or their collaboration on Walk This Way, while at the time seemed so bizarre that it became such an amazing hit. It revitalized Aerosmith's career, because at the time they were in a slump. They had reunited with Joe Perry, but it didn't really help kickstart the way that their career back the way that they hoped it would. And then suddenly Rick Rubin said, "Hey, Run DMC, check out this song." At first, Run DMC was like, "What the hell? I don't get these lyrics." But they gave it a shot. Aerosmith was on board. The music video then helped bring Aerosmith into the MTV era and helped skyrocket them back into mainstream success. And it helped influence a lot of bands to do rap and rock together. Before, rock was in one lane, rap was in the other. And then this song, or this collaboration, Walk This Way, this unique take of Walk This Way, helped bridge these two genres together. Some would say for worse, some would say for better. Regardless, it was game-changing. So my first pick, yeah, I'm going there. Walk This Way. The second pick, I'm going to go with a very recent one that I still don't fully understand. And while I'm not necessarily a huge fan of the song, there's no denying how massive it is. And on paper, it really should not be. It's not that unusual to see country and rap collide in a weird way. It seems weird, and there's some instances where it's been horrible. So I'll give you an example of how it's an honorable mention. Brad Paisley and LLCoolJ's Accidental Racist, an example of how rap and country coming together can be so misguided and just truly terrible. But here's an example of how it should be terrible, but it's actually pretty good. Or at least it's good enough to be a huge hit. I'm talking about LilNasX and Billy Ray Cyrus coming together to do Old Town Road, or the country rap version, I should say, of Old Town Road. Because LilNasX had seen some moderate success with the song. And then someone thought, you know what would make this song an even bigger hit? Throwing Billy Ray Cyrus on it.
They couldn't get Miley.
Because, well, maybe. But because I guess from what I was reading, they were having an issue because, well, technically it did have a lot of country elements to it to begin with. For whatever reason, they wouldn't allow it to count as a country song on the charts. But then they got Billy Ray Cyrus on it, gave it the more country cred, and it just exploded. And I remember when it first came out, I'm thinking, who the hell would ever think, you know what? I want Billy Ray Cyrus on my hip hop song. Out of all the country musicians, that's the one I want. And then to see the song just skyrocket. I mean, it's now probably one of the most successful mainstream hip hop songs in pop culture currently, in the past 5 years at least. And now LilNasX is actually a huge figure, both in hip hop and just broader music scene. This song should not be a hit. This collaboration should not have been successful. And yet it spawned numerous award ceremony performances and huge numbers of streams and even appearances in movies, commercials, TV shows. For a while, the song was inescapable. So for the oddest collaborations and an example of country and hip hop coming together to good success, I'm going with LilNasX and Billy Ray Cyrus on Old Town Road. Continuing on the theme of country and hip hop coming together, another example of it working together, and maybe more in the prime, my third pick, I'm going to go with Nelly and Tim McGraw on their song Over and Over. Now, this is a song that you might have forgotten existed. But you have to remember at the time, as odd as it was to still see Nelly and Tim McGraw in the same music video, it was 2004, and it was at a time when both were huge in their respective genres. And Nelly was even bigger in mainstream music in general. Hot in Here is a huge hit, and Tim McGraw obviously just massive in country. And it was a successful song, and the video did really well on MTV. I mean, it ended up peaking at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. It really was one of the earlier examples of a rap and country song combined together without it being kind of too hokey, I guess. It was actually taken seriously, where I feel like it could have easily been kind of laughed off. Now it seems kind of odd. At the time, I'm sure it seemed a little odd, but it worked. It led to success, and it's still a pretty decent song. I do feel like I need to give another honorary mention, though, Matt, if you don't mind, to Willie Nelson and Julio Iglesias, as To All the Girls I've Loved Before. This one almost made my top 3, because if you think about it, at the time, the Spanish heartthrob singer and the country road dog coming together for a sentimental ballad to all the women they pretty much slept with up to that point seemed so bizarre, and it was a massive hit for both of them, and actually really helped introduce them to new audiences. I mean, to Julio to an English pop audience or even English country artists, and then Willie to international fandom and audience as well. So that was a really close number 3. And I hint, if you wanted to even add that to the top 3 instead of any of our picks, I'm all for it. But my final 3, Nelly and Tim McGraw, Over and Over, LilNasX and Billy Ray Cyrus, Old Town Road, and Aerosmith and Run DMC, Walk This Way. So now, Matt, I'm going to give you a choice.
Uh-oh.
We either determine a top 3 of the oddest music collaborations, or we spend the rest of the episode discussing Biker Boys.
Biker Boys.
Yeah. Okay, good. So Kid Rock. What? No. His name was Dog. You know, I don't even have a compromise for you, because I think all of these collaborations, I could honestly make an argument for all of them.
Well, it didn't sound like you had too many cringy ones.
The only real cringy one was my honorary mention.
So just on the cringe factor alone, I feel like we've got to, and we talked about it so much, we have to bring back Metallica, Ja Rule, and the Biker Boys.
No.
No.
Yeah, no. And here's why. Because honestly, until you brought it up, I forgot it existed. Granted, I'm sure there's people behind the scenes who spent a lot of time making sure you forgot about it. But
you mean
I would argue that
you're not going to remix it?
Yeah.
They're not going to re-release it with the Black Album?
And they're not going to ask 50 artists to do their own cover of it? I know, shocking. For instance, as cringeworthy as Metallica and Lou Reed's album Lulu was, and we can do a whole episode just diving deep into it.
Let us know if you want us to.
Let us know on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. At least that was still so odd. We're still talking about it. It's still brought up. Hell, it inspired this episode to a certain degree. I forgot Ja Rule and Metallica had collaborated. Truth be told, I don't think I would have even known that collaboration existed if it wasn't for me being such a nerd and watching the bonus scenes of Some Kind of Monster.
So isn't that the purpose of this, though, is that it's unusual?
It's unusual, but I think it's so unusual that you can't help but just talk for hours about how unusual it was. Like,
I think that's why I want it on here.
No, but like, I would argue that the other examples, even the ones that you mentioned, it's so unusual and it still made an impact. It made a greater impact than Ja Rule and Metallica collaborating. If it helps, Matt, don't worry. Even though it is the most successful collaboration, I will not fight for Walk This Way to be in the top 3.
We can walk this way out the door.
Fair, but as long as we acknowledge it, you're wrong. Anyway, I feel like we need to talk about David Bowie and Bing Crosby.
Let's talk about this. What is the one that we can agree on? So at least we get one on the list right now.
Okay. Out of curiosity, out of my 3, because I know which one I agree with the most on your list. Which one on my list do you agree with the most, out of curiosity?
Probably LilNasX. Tim McGraw and Nelly, I can see how that song kind of came together and why they put them together. Tim McGraw definitely can sing without without an iota of country in him. And Nelly wasn't so far into the R&B side that Tim McGraw felt out of place. This song felt like it was written for both of them and to be a proper duet. And I think
that's fair.
And I think also Nelly and his collaboration with Kelly Rowland also around the same time kind of helped lay the groundwork for how to successfully do a duet with Nelly. And I think that
I forgot that song. Oof.
Yeah.
Nelly had hits.
He did.
He had hits.
I think that kind of laid that groundwork. So it didn't seem so out of place. So to me, I don't think it was unusual. Like
here's what I'll say then.
Okay.
Here's my compromise deal. And I think you're going to like this. And mind you, even if we come up with the three, I do want to discuss the Bing Crosby and David Bowie one a little bit because I have some things I want to respond to how you said, some of your comments about it. To me, I would propose the final three be Bing Crosby and David Bowie's Little Drummer Boy, Carlos Santana's Supernatural album, and LilNasX and Billy Ray Cyrus.
All right. I guess we can leave out Metallica.
Yeah. So that's the three. Now, with that said, one thing I want to address regarding the Bing Crosby and David Bowie. You made it sound like it's odd at how it didn't work. I think what made that duet so successful was, well, first you have to remember that literally it was two opposite polars coming together.
Yes.
Here was the outer space rock god, the alien chameleon, and Mr. Button Up, clean cut, drink your milk, Bing Crosby. And I think what made that duet what still made it so great and successful is that it highlighted how together is still a little odd. It showcased how, for all the theatrics that you associated and all the weirdness that you associated with David Bowie at the time, it captured how deep down he was a great singer. And Bing Crosby, how he's just a legend right there and then. I would also argue that it is still such a weird collaboration because the way David Bowie comes in, it's just like, oh yeah, so-and-so lets me come into his house just to play piano. And he doesn't play piano. And he goes, oh, me and my son love to sing Little Drummer Boy. He doesn't even sing Little Drummer Boy. Like, it's just it's so weird that it's so David Bowie at the same time that, of course, he says all this and does the exact opposite in that one. Did you ever see Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly doing a word-for-word parody of that, where Will Ferrell played David Bowie and John C. Reilly played Bing Crosby?
No.
It was actually really hysterical, and they didn't like add any lines or do anything too different. They might have added a like weird look here and there, but I think what made it so funny is because it was so like note for note what the actual appearance was. It was a good reminder of like, no, this was weird, but it was so weird that it was perfect.
Yeah, there's just something about that song. It does scream Christmas every time I hear it, obviously, but if you just listen to it from like a pure musical perspective, it doesn't jive for me. And I don't know what it is. And I think it's just, like I said earlier, it's just their voices, really, because they're two totally different schools of thought. I guess hearing Bowie and Freddie Mercury together, those guys kind of matched each other. And that's like almost vocal perfection.
Yeah.
This was so far in the opposite direction. I don't know. It's weird. Like, I wonder if Bing Crosby knew who David Bowie was before that happened.
Maybe. It's funny. It didn't work for you and you don't know how to explain it. And for me, it worked, but I don't know how to explain it really either. And I think that's what makes it so beautiful, is that maybe, like, all right, let's just appreciate it for what it was. So to recap, I say the final three: Bing Crosby and David Bowie's Little Drummer Boy / Peace on Earth / let's just randomly sing on a Christmas special together. LilNasX and Billy Ray Cyrus, Old Town Road, and the entire Supernatural album by Carlos Santana, featuring literally every radio rock singers and songwriters of the time, and Lauryn Hill. I forgot Lauryn Hill was on that album.
Mm-hmm.
That's really fun. I forgot David Matthews. I just always think of Smooth. Honestly, even if you just went with Smooth, I would have been like, yeah, we can throw that. That would be it.
But you know what's funny though is, like, when the album originally came out, they left some songs off of it, and they came out with the deluxe edition later on, and the deluxe edition still has killer songs on it.
First off, it was his 18th album, which is crazy.
Yeah, on its own, that's nuts.
That alone. Maria Maria, that's a great song. I mean, that album broke the record that Michael Jackson had for the most awards won in one single night.
And here we are.
Yeah,
we're in the end game now.
The Eric Clapton was on this album too.
That's what I said. Yeah, he was.
Oh yeah, that's right. You did say that.
He's actually on the album twice. He's on the album for the song "The Calling," and then in the Legacy edition, he has a jam that he does with Santana. And just to clear this up, in the regular Supernatural, the Dave Matthews song is "Love of My Life," but they also had one that they left off and was put back on the Legacy edition, which is "Rain Down on Me," and I love that song.
All right, well, so that album definitely is on. So that's our three. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you actually think Brad Paisley and LLCoolJ's cover "Accidental Racist" is actually a genius mastermind? If you do,
you love the Biker Boys.
Yeah. Do you want us to do an episode of Biker Boys? Let us know.
Just do a script reading of Biker Boys.
Do we get like royalties now if we include an Amazon link to like Amazon Prime to stream it? Do we get some money? Like we should, because that's the most that Biker Boys has ever been talked about in the past 15 years. I want a royalty. Let us know what you think of our list, our picks. What other odd collaborations you think stand out the most on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Epic Footnote. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel to hear more podcasts like this, maybe even more podcasts about Biker Boys, as well as video content that is much more music related than what we've been talking about, I swear. Thank you. And thank you again to Lucky 13 Beard Co., who I hope feel pressure to do a Biker Boys themed beard oil. Ed, make it happen.
It smells like burned rubber and gasoline. There you go.
And Lawrence Fishburne for some reason.
Maybe a little Kid Rock dropped in there too. Go to lucky13beardco.com and use code EFP10 to check out 10% off of all the beard balms and oils that do not smell like the Biker Boys.
Go on their socials and force Ed to do it. The people want it, Ed. They want to smell like Biker Boys.
All right, let's just cut this travesty here. It's Matt.
And it's Zach. Thanks for listening, and we hope you listen again really, really soon. Goodbye.
What?